Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called The Bark Side, and it's from Korea Board Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. The Bark Side is a ladder climbing card game. You and the other players are trying to play cards that have very colorful depictions of dogs who are rampaging through the neighborhood. They're good dogs, or they were good dogs, who belong to some very loving owners, but every dog has his day, as the saying goes, and now they're running rampant around the neighborhood, and your goal is to try to keep those dogs out of your house and get them back to their owners. That's the very loose theme of the game, but really what you're doing is, again, ladder climbing card game. You're playing down cards, trying to force the other players to play cards as well, and you want to try to keep them to keep their high cards and for you to get rid of your high cards. Of course, it's a ladder climbing card game, so it's a little more complicated than that. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype copy of the game. So do bear in mind that what you see here may change in the final version just a little bit. There's a couple cards that don't have artwork. You'll see that too, but most of them do. But in any event, after seeing that, we're going to come back and discuss it further. The Bark Side is a competitive climbing card game for 3 to 5 players. Each round, players will be playing one or more cards to the table with the intention of not having their last card of the round be the highest played card, or they may have to take cards. The game ends when either there are too few cards remaining in the deck, or one player has been saddled with 7 different dog cards. Regardless, you want to have the fewest cards possible in front of you at the end of the game. The deck of the Bark Side consists of 50 cards. There are 5 each of 10 different dog cards numbered from 1 to 10. Those numbers represent the card's strength when you play cards later. The best way to think of each round of the game is to break it down into steps. In the first step of the round, you're going to shuffle all the cards and deal 10 out to each player. This is their hand and should never be seen by the other players. Each player takes 2 cards from their hand and passes them face down to the player on their right, so that every player still has 10 cards, but 2 of them have come from another player. Step 2 is playing those cards. Choose one player to be the start player for the first round. That player may either play 1 card or play a set of cards, and then the next player in clockwise order will follow that. If the start player plays a single card, every following player must play a card of equal or higher strength than the card that preceded it. In this way, it's going to get very difficult very fast as the strength increases. If they can't play a card that is equal or higher, they'll have to play the lowest card that they have in hand, which is bad because you want to keep your low cards. This is considered a tail-tucking move. Alternatively, the start player can play a set of cards, specifically 2 or more cards that must all be the same strength. They can only do this if the following 2 conditions are met. One player must have already made a tail-tucking move in the current round, as described before, and after playing the set, they must still have at least 1 card in hand, so you can't dump your entire hand in this way. If a set is played, each following player must play the same number of cards that must also be of the same or greater strength, just as if you were playing 1 card. Once again, if they can't meet these requirements on their turn, they must play a set of the lowest cards that they have. The number of cards must match the preceding sets, but in this situation, the strength does not need to match as long as they're the lowest because you're still being penalized. After every player has had a chance to play, figure out who played the highest card or set of cards, and they will be the next start player. Start back from step 2, which is playing your cards, and keep going until every player only has 1 card left in hand for the round. At this point, you move on to step 3, which is playing that last card. Every player, starting from the start player for the turn, will play their 1 card down to the table. Whoever plays the highest card is the loser of the round, with ties going to whoever played last. This person is then forced to take the highest card and the 2 lowest cards played during this turn of play, and keep them face up in front of them for the duration of the game. If one of the 2 endgame conditions is not met at this point, you simply restart from step 1, Reshuffle all of the cards except for the cards that players have been forced to take. Those have to stay there. And then simply keep playing more rounds of the game. The game does end, however, when either one player has been forced to take at least 7 different dog cards in front of them, in which case they automatically lose, or if there are 4 or less cards left to deal out at the start of a new round, in which case whoever has the most cards of different strengths lose automatically. But in either case, after one player loses automatically, whoever is left that has the least cards will be the winner of the game. That is the Bark side. Well, aside from the very lighthearted theme and the very colorful, high-quality artwork that you see on all of the cards, the most notable thing about the Bark side is it's a game I don't do a lot of previews, a type of game I don't do a lot of previews for, which is a light card game. But a lot of card games fall into like the trick-taking category, right? Like that's its own huge subgenre of card games where you're trying to take the trick, the cards that have been played down. You want to get those points. In this game, you do not. This falls into the category of games like Hearts, where you absolutely do not want those. And it's not that you're adding up points necessarily; you're adding up the cards themselves, which are points. You're counting them up at the end. So this falls into that category where it's like keep away. And so I've always enjoyed that type of game more. Like Hearts is one of my favorite traditional style card games because it's a very interesting dynamic. Maybe it's just a mental thing, but it's like I'm not trying to get something, I'm trying to keep something away, and how do I force the other players to take these things? And it is what's happening in the Bark side. So you have to very carefully consider what you're going to play. Like if you're the star player for the round, it's like, well, okay, play my high card, and it's definitely going to screw up somebody. There's only 5 of each card in the deck, so if I play a 10 right off the bat, someone is immediately going to get tripped up unless I'm really unlucky. And that's another thing you have to take into account. You could throw a 10 down, and let's say it's, it doesn't really matter if it's a 4-player or 5-player game. If you're really unlucky, everyone else might be able to play a 10 too, and then you're the one that's stuck. So you have to consider that. That's kind of rare, but more to the point, you can say, well, what if I only have low cards? Well, now I'm stuck in a tricky position. Well, I'll play the highest one I possibly can to try to get people to... But doing that, you want them to hold on to their high cards too, so it's kind of like you're either trying to immediately trip someone up and hope that they don't screw you over by going all the way back around, or you're going to play something really low and hope that if it does come back around to you, you can play another... It doesn't get so high that you're screwed again. So very carefully deciding how you want to proceed there. You have to worry about that from hand to hand, round to round. And the ways in which you can play the sets as well, which can be a very good thing, because again, if you are worried that you might get tripped up, the best thing to do is to force it to get down to that last card in hand, that like final showdown for each round, where it's like, okay, this is the card that I've been purposefully leading us all to play, and ideally it's going to be your lowest possible card, unless, of course, the other players who had a chance at the start player and leading it off, they might have completely screwed you on that. So it is a simple card game. I mean, you'll notice, as opposed to other previews I did where a lot of time is spent on how the game is set up, here it's just shuffle the cards and deal them out. And that actually happens every time you have to start a full round over again. So it's very simple in that regard, and yet there's so much, intricate... No, I mean, it's not like overly intricate strategy, but it is strategy. What am I going to do? And this isn't a partner's game either, so it's all on you to sort of play it out. And so rounds move very quickly, and you always feel like you could see things going horribly wrong as they go along, but you still need to stay calm and play the right card at the right moment. So again, light card game, but a lot going on underneath the hood. But because it's so easy to teach and fast to set up and to play, you could throw it into the category of filler card game as well, which means that you can play it with, in between other games. You can play it with casual gamers, new players to your group. And the fact that it does have this loose theme about the dogs and the very colorful, high-quality artwork really does help it along to being very accessible to people as well. So, if you think that this appeals to you, or someone you know, or if you think your group really might get a kick out of it, or there's a lot of people who really love these types of card games, either trick-taking games or anti-trick-taking games or whatever you want to call them, ladder-climbing games. If you fall into any of those categories, don't take my word for any of this. Go to the official Kickstarter project page and find out tons more information. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is the Bark Side from Korea Board Games. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.